Hey everyone, it's Brandon here again for another video. Today's video is going to be another spiritual practice vlog. So I've already done 3 of them in this sort of a style. This one I'm going to start making a little tweak to the spiritual practice vlogs. They're not only going to be like me describing my practice and how it's going, but also probably talking a little bit more on, different spiritual modes of understanding, stuff like that, different insights, So, let's get started. So, today I did, several different types of meditation. I have bipolar disorder and ADHD, and I'm just kind of a weird motherfucker, to be honest with you. So I've found that doing one type of spiritual practice, like one method, one technique, is maybe not ideal for me. It at least has definitely not produced the best results. Common advice for people is to pick one technique and kind of stick with it if that's what you like. Like if you find a technique that you like that's also giving you results, that's generally like the normal advice, like stick with that and use it. And it's most important that you just basically put the time in of quality meditation or whatever spiritual practice it is that you're doing. You do that long enough hours are put into it, and you'll start to see the deeper results that come with spiritual practice. But for me, to be practicing the most consistently, I found really means using many different techniques. It's kind of what do I feel in the moment? What do I feel like doing as far as a meditation technique or something else that might also be a spiritual technique? So today I did Fire Kasina, was what I did the most of probably. I also did breath meditation, or Anapanasati if you want to get technical and Buddhist about it and call it that. I also did like a third eye meditation, so something that has been this way for probably like a year and a half now. Like right now I'm doing it. I can feel like a pool of this sort of really like heavy energy in my third eye. Basically turn it on, turn it off whenever I want. Really it's easier to turn it on than turn it off in a sense, but turning it off really just means focusing on something else and it'll kind of just subside. So I did that while I went for a walk for about 30 minutes outside. That was my focus object for the meditation. I was walking, I was listening to to a spiritual thing, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. It's not even, I'm not even sure if that's like a legitimate like historical thing, but either way, they work. Like the teachings in that actually work to bring about different states for me that seem to be helpful. So I am really a practical person, and to a degree when it comes to spiritual practice. Like I do what works, whether it's real or true or anything like that doesn't really matter to me. Does it work? Does it get me to truth directly in a directly experienced way? That's more important than if it has relative truth in the world, so to speak. But anyway, so I did that for like 30 minutes. I did like 2 or 3 rounds of Fire Kasina. So if you don't know what Fire Kasina is, it's basically a candle flame meditation, but after several minutes of your focus object being the flame of the candle, you'll close your eyes, and then the after image that comes. I mean, if you're a human being, you've seen that when you close your eyes after looking at a bright light for long enough, you'll have an after image when your eyes are closed. So with Fire Kasina, you're going to use that after image as your new focus object, and it's going to change and People describe it, basically like if you do it enough, you can pretty much create your own like 3D reality with your imagination. I've definitely not gotten to that depth of it, but usually that takes many days of sustained practice of doing it like all day to get to those levels, from what I've heard people describe it. So anyway, I did like probably an hour and a half of that today. That's what I actually just finished up before I started recording. I was doing Vipassana meditation. I find when doing concentration style practice like that, or really some people like to not use the word concentration, which is fine. The main reason why they don't use the word concentration is because it gives the false image that you're only paying attention to the meditation object, which definitely isn't the right way to meditate. If you talk to anyone who's experienced, they're going to say most of the time that you should also have some level of awareness of everything else that's happening, but your attention is focused on the meditation object. So that's kind of a subtle difference that, if you're like brand new to meditation or something, you probably won't hear it described that way. It is a helpful way to hear it, though. It does make it a lot easier. Trying to have stable attention on something while only having your awareness on one thing is pretty difficult. Why? Because your awareness is going to be picking up on so many different things. But keeping your attention stable on something, to keep your focus stable on something, while also keeping in your perception, like allowing other things to be in your awareness, it's so much easier that way. Like I had many thoughts coming and going, and I could even engage with the thoughts to a degree and still have my attention on the candle flame, for example, or the after image after I close my eyes. The Vipassana, I really like. It's a dynamic type of spiritual practice, and something that Daniel Ingram actually recommends is that he talks a lot about Vipassana. And I kind of forgot the point that I was gonna make with him, but yeah. Either way, side point. If you're interested in Vipassana, Daniel Ingram has a free book that he co-authored. Daniel Ingram is a medical doctor who has like probably 30 or 40 years of meditation experience, and has written one of the best practical manuals on Buddhist meditation, in my opinion, that I've found. It's called Mastering the Core Teachings of the Buddha. That's also free if you go to MCTB, like Mastering Core Teachings Buddha, mctb.org. You can find that whole book. It's about 550 or 600 some pages. And it's really a great resource if you want to develop yourself in that type of meditation. Really, any type of Buddhist practice. I got into that book and stuff like Vipassana and all this kind of later on in my spiritual journey. It's funny, I kind of started with Buddhism a little bit by getting an introduction, kind of listening to Alan Watts. And that's a really common way people get started in spirituality. They listen to Alan Watts, and he was just great about talking about this stuff. But I realized after I had my first cessation last year, I think it was on like May 25th or 28th, one of the two, of 2021. When I had my first cessation, that's really when I found out what the hell Buddhism was. I had no clue what Buddhism was before that. And honestly, I had no clue what meditation really could do almost entirely up until that point. I had been meditating for like 7 years up to that point, or like 7.5 years. And I sucked at it compared to meditation immediately after cessation. After I got to cessation, meditation became something completely different, exponentially more potent, powerful, beautiful, whatever. You know, it was very rare that I would get to powerful, sober-minded meditation experiences or spiritual experiences. They would still happen, but it was rare before cessation. After cessation, eventually, uh, next level spiritual experiences became a default mode to where they were there 24/7. Like right now, I'm experiencing like several different elements of sort of higher level meditative attainments in my field of experience right now. And none of that probably would have been the case if it weren't for me accidentally stumbling upon the real type of Buddhist, uh, results that you can find. And to a degree, they're also Hindu results. It's not like these states are only found in Buddhism. Really, where they're most probably found, other than that, is Hinduism. I would assume maybe even like Sikhism has some of these states, buried somewhere, but it's probably talked about a lot less. I call these Buddhist states because Buddhism really focuses on them, specifically Theravada Buddhism, which is the earliest school of Buddhism. They really focus on states like the jhanas, attainments like cessation, and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, my spiritual journey was completely different before cessation. So I really can't look at my life and my whole spiritual journey in any way other than, like, if I'm being reasonable, other than to say that this stuff was what really worked for me. Can other people find other stuff that works for them similarly as good? Maybe. I don't know. I'm a little skeptical. I am a little skeptical of people talking about their awakenings and they've not had cessations, just because I used to be one of those people. I had done giant doses of psychedelics and had plenty of, spiritual experiences, even just from really intense manic episodes, which can be at least as powerful, if not more powerful, than some of the most potent psychedelics out there taken at a really high dose, like a dangerous dose. Manic episodes can produce states of consciousness at least as powerful, depending on the episode. But anyway, it's kind of beside the point. So beyond Fire Casino and one quick point about Fire Casino that I did today. I really enjoyed my last sit today with Fire Casino because it led me to a place where everything just felt extra comfy. It was like a comfy jhana. Everything, it's not that it was happiness or bliss or something like that. It was really literally just like the whole field of experience had become comfy. Like the feeling you get when you lay in a nice bed, maybe when you're even a little tired from a long day or something, and you snuggle up in those covers and you get comfy. My whole field of experience, every sensation within it pretty much just felt frickin' comfy. And it was pretty cool. That's not like why I sat down to meditate, was so that I would get to this really comfy place. But, I mean, alongside, like, the extra comfy feeling, and I say comfy, like, the shortened version for a reason, like, on purpose. It's not that it was comfortable, or that there was a lot of comfort. That's, like, a little too formal for what this felt like. It was just fucking damn comfy. And I loved it. But beside, the Fire Casino and like the third eye chakra, or whatever the hell this region right here is, maybe extending half an inch under the skull to, like this long. That's what I'm talking about. I just feel like a pool of this sort of like heavy but pleasurable energy. That's what I can like turn on, and I just, it feels right to turn it into a focus object at times, and to just intensify that feeling. So, I did that with like a walking meditation, really working with metacognitive awareness. If you don't know what that is, it's basically you're learning to just juggle multiple things at once, is really what it means. You're able to hold a lot within your awareness, such as like me listening to the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, like a little video audio thing in my headphones, while simultaneously walking, not tripping or stumbling on my feet or anything, while looking down the road, while, I'm not like running into traffic or anything because I'm too focused on like this energy. It's like, no, it's very easy to like maintain the stable attention on this because I've just gotten used to that. I've built up those skills of metacognitive awareness. And that is really something that's quite important if you want to get the benefits of meditation. And if you want to really see what meditation can do, you're going to have to, at some point, start to develop those metacognitive abilities where you're able to hold things within your awareness and skillfully maybe even do activities while also maintaining a focus object. Really, the best thing for this that I found for a beginner, if you want to practice this, is probably just the breath meditation. You do the breath meditation and you do regular shit while you do your breath meditation. You cook your breakfast. You go to work and you do the breath meditation the whole time while you're there. I did that for like 2 days, 3 days straight, maybe like 60% of the day I was doing the breath meditation several months ago, and I got to some really awesome states by the end of it. A lot of meditation where you really start to peel back the layers and see the depth that can be there comes from how stable and consistent has your practice. Really, the word stable doesn't fit there. I meant to say, how consistent is your practice as far as like percentage of your day have you been practicing? How many days in a row? So if you practice for 1 hour a day for like 100 days in a row, that's probably going to do a lot. If you practice for 10 hours a day for 5 days in a row, that might get you deeper places than the 1 hour a day for 100 days. It's hard to say. It depends on the person and a lot of other variables, but there are definitely huge benefits to having that like block of time where, this is why like meditation retreats are so popular. It's because they take advantage of that built-in feature of our brains, our minds, our bodies in meditation. There's something about having that consistency all at once, all kind of chained together, that does something. But beyond Fire Casino, now let's get to the last thing. So beyond Fire Casino, and the third eye kind of thingy that I did while like walking and all that, and a bit of breath meditation here and there, I also did insight meditation. So, typically in Buddhist terminology, this is described as Vipassana, which, a way that I've heard it defined that I like is to penetrate and see deeply. Now, I've been doing more Vipassana in the emptiness sort of direction, thanks to the influence of this book, Seeing That Freeze, Meditations on Emptiness and Dependent Arising by Rob Burbea. So, one way you can think of Vipassana meditation is it's going to focus on like the 3 characteristics in Buddhism, which would be no self, or really a better translation I've heard, in my opinion, and from someone who has a, master's degree in like actual Buddhist studies and is a practicing monk for a number of years and been meditating for like 20 years. His name is Bhikkhu, which means monk in the Buddhist tradition, Chandana, and it's spelled Candana. I would highly recommend, if you're into Buddhist meditation and stuff, you check out his channel. I really do see him as one of the highest quality contemporary resources you're going to find on Buddhist meditation and just the path to Buddhist style liberation. His stuff's awesome. But that kind of gets me beside the point of where I was going. But anyway, yeah, so this book got me doing Vipassana. Okay, I was going to list the 3 characteristics. So the different definition of anatta, the Pali word, which really means like A is like the negation, prefix to the word, and that, it's like on Atman, like it's basically the opposite, or it's like a negation of the term of the Atman in Hinduism. So Hinduism had this idea of like this permanent soul, like sort of infinite consciousness, direct experience thing that you're having right now. There was some like essence to it, or it was a certain way. And basically what Buddhism came to be and what the Buddha supposedly came to say was, no, it's not that thing that everybody's talking about as being important and like the deepest thing that they have individually. No, that soul thing, it's not consistent, it's not real. You guys gotta level up and see through this shit. That's basically what the Buddha was kind of saying with that term. At least, 2,600 years later, this is a, reasonable way of describing it based on the information we have today. Because I have spent some time looking into it, different sources, different high-quality sources. People like Dhammarato I've learned from. So he's, in the Theravada tradition, as well as Bhikkhu Chandana. He's in the Theravada tradition. They both spent time as practicing monks. Chandana was in more of a Western sort of sense. Dhammarato spent his time, I believe, more in like the Thai kind of Buddhist tradition, or at least around Thailand and other places in Asia. But basically, he practiced with high-level monks like Bhikkhu Buddhadasa, who were still had ties in a sense, or to a degree, with the sort of Theravada way of looking at things. And then as well as Daniel Ingram. And then other people who are like kind of more interesting and unique spin-offs of people like Daniel Ingram, people like Frank Yang. Like, these are all people I've learned a lot from, and they all have a lot of experience with this stuff. And my way of describing the anatta comes from that. So anyway, Bhikkhu Chandana's definition of anatta is non-substantiality of the self, which basically means we're not saying there isn't the appearance of a self here, or that you can't point out the appearance of some immutable thing. The thing is, those are just temporary, fleeting appearances that will ultimately deconstruct eventually. Or that's how I would describe it, in that lens, using that definition that Bhikkhu Chandana gave. So, beyond that, so there's anatta. That was all like a long tangent just to describe the first, or like, I think it's actually the third of the 3 characteristics. So the first of the 3 characteristics is impermanence. Shit is fucking changing really quick, actually. If you pay attention and you get good at paying attention to what the hell's going on, stuff is changing so fast you'll never keep up with it in a million years. to the best of your abilities, no matter how many deities you have inside your ass. You'll never fucking keep up with how fast reality is. That's one point. Impermanence, first characteristic. Second characteristic is dukkha. There is dissatisfaction in existence. That's what dukkha means. Dissatisfaction. There's dissatisfaction in existence. Things are not permanently satisfying. One element of experience is not permanently satisfying. Go ahead and try to prove me wrong on that, or rather prove me and the Buddha and all of the great Buddhists, spiritual practitioners who came after him. Go ahead and try to prove us wrong. Go ahead and try to prove any contemporary normal scientific person wrong, or anybody in human life. They're going to say, yeah, at some point in time in my direct experience, there certainly was some dissatisfaction. They will tell you that. Jesus of Nazareth experienced dissatisfaction. I'd have to brush up on my Hinduism a little bit, but I can probably bet like Krishna experienced dissatisfaction. It's just part of existence, guys. Things are not permanently satisfying. And part of the reason they're not permanently satisfying is because they change. And part of the reason why they even have the capability of being temporarily satisfying is because they change. But that's for another video or something. I don't know. And then the third characteristic. The third is that anatta, non-substantiality of the self, or of any self. Just not substantial. It's not the real fixed thing that you might hear in Christian or Hindu traditions. Not that the appearances that those traditions are built on are actually false in a sense, but rather that at the level of direct experience and perception and awareness and just experience, it changes. And there isn't actually, if you can look correctly at how life is, with your own experience, you can see, there really is no fixed thing you could point to as a soul. That's the idea. You can't find it. Go ahead and find your soul for me. Tell me what it's like. Tell me what it's like. Double check your answer. Double check your answer before you send it to me, though. Make sure you know. And then we'll see what holds up to impermanence. And what holds up to, it would basically just change alone already. If you notice impermanence deep enough in your own experience, you'll see, no, there ain't nothing. The closest thing to a soul that I would say there is, or an essence, would just be experience itself. I kind of described this a little bit in my video about Leo Gura's take on solipsism, where I dissect that. That was like a couple videos ago, so you guys can scroll through and find that if you want to watch it. But anyway, so all that was just to tell you that the three characteristics, those are like ways you can think of Vipassana. They're like little portals into Vipassana. So if you look at experience, your direct experience right now, and you're trying to see impermanence, like see it, feel it, taste it, smell it, shit it out of your ass. You're trying to get to impermanence and just actually get with it. That's one way of doing Vipassana. If you're trying to see the dissatisfactory nature in life, in your own experience right here, right now, that's dukkha. Or alternatively, if you're trying to work and create satisfaction, that's also kind of working with dukkha. So that can actually, in a little bit more subtle ways, provide insight into that second characteristic of the three. And then anatta, you can do things like self-inquiry, or basically just looking for the self, or just recognizing if you already have realized anatta, which you probably haven't, you might have listened to Leo Gura on actualize.org and, taken some psychedelics and think you know what no self is. Chances are you haven't. You don't know. If it's not here right now and you're not just it's just experience is doing its thing, and this is clear as day, 24/7, you don't really know what anatta is. And I'm not even saying that I know what anatta is, but I'm saying that I have gotten to that level that I just described. And I'm telling you, if you haven't got to that level yet, then you definitely don't know what it is. Like, really, you don't know what it is. You might know what it is, like a 4th grade English teacher knows what a string is in string theory. You might have heard of it. You might have even had like a little bit of a description of it to you, but it is not the shit you really know much about in life. You might have even heard a decent description. You're like, oh yeah, I know what that is. No, you probably still don't. That's kind of how I would describe it. So, with people like thinking they know anatta, they think they know no self. It ain't as simple as you think. This is not an intellectual understanding. This is a felt thing all over the place in your direct experience. At least the level I've gotten to. I hope there are deeper levels. I mean, there probably are that can get reached. So I hope that one day I can tell you, Brandon at 26 didn't know what the fuck anatta was, but now I know what it is. I hope so. I hope I can get there, because if it's much beyond what this is, it's going to be a fucking beautiful ride to get there, and it's going to be a great destination to be kicking my feet up on the beach, existentially speaking, with how much fucking anatta's been realized. But anyway, all of this was just to tell you that I did some Vipassana today, and it was fun, and I got to see emptiness and things, and I like to do Vipassana while I'm doing Hatha Yoga. I like to see into the empty nature, which empty, one way of explaining what emptiness means is that things are not inherently extant, and I hope I'm pronouncing that word right, because that's really maybe the first time I've ever spoken that word. You could say existent, but extant is extant, whatever. That's kind of a shortened version, but I think that's kind of the correct way of saying it. But you see that things are not, they do not have inherent existence. Things do not exist on their own. They all exist in part because of the way that you view them. They exist in part because of the other things that they are not in reference against them. They exist because your whole field of experience, millions of sensations a second, is getting constructed to appear to be a stable present moment when really it's just flicker, 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 and then beyond all that visual flicker bullshit, there's also flicker, 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 flicker all over in your head and shit. And then there's like spatial flickers, little fake fucking little sensation thing in space. And then in your mind, there's thought flicker textures to your little thoughts. And then there's, sensations beyond the physical body that still occupy the same space as your physical body, like Kundalini type stuff, like spiritual body type stuff, or subtle body, however you want to say it. There is a lot going on here, folks, and you're probably not seeing it yet. I hope you see it one day. Best of luck on that. But either way, I'm 34 minutes in on this spiritual practice vlog. I'm going to sign off. I think this was episode 4, and I think this might be something I stick with and start making more episodes of. Give it a thumbs up if you want to see me make more content like this spiritual practice vlog. That'll be a little sign to me, ooh, this is doing well on YouTube, I might get like an extra 2 subscribers a month if I make more shit like this. So give me that thumbs up if you liked it and if you want to see more like this. And then I'll know that I'll get like that extra 2 subscribers a month, and then I'll make more videos like this.